Greetings to you, Crocodile Army. I've had a lot of discussions in the past few weeks about the Electoral College. For the second time in 16 years, the winner of the election by electoral votes lost the popular vote. A lot of Americans take it for granted that this is just how it is. A lot of people from other countries wonder how this is possible. There were many reasons for the system, one of which was fear of, as James Madison put it, an interested and overbearing majority, which a lot of people refer to simply as the tyranny of the majority. The stated fear here is that people too stupid to understand quite what they're voting for will vote for someone completely unfit for the office, so we need to have smart electors to make sure that we the people don't vote in a complete maniac. This leaves people like me wondering if maybe Trump is just such a case to intervene. While that sort of thinking has its appeal after this election, I realize that who's a maniac is often in the eye of the beholder. Though I'd argue that it's usually the candidate with the proportionally smallest hands. For those of you who are unaware, each state's electoral votes are based on how many total representatives they have in the Senate and in the House. A big part of the problem starts right off the bat here. All states have 2 senators, no matter how big or small. So the smallest population state, at around 584,000 people, Wyoming, gets the minimum electoral votes, 3. 1 for each senator, and 1 for their lone House representative. California, the largest population state with about 38.8 million people, gets the most with 55 electoral votes. Each voter in Wyoming then has around 3.6 times the amount of voting power of a voter in California. This wouldn't be such a big deal if Wyoming were the only state like this, but there are many rural states in the US like this. Since small states already get an outsized say in the legislative branch by having 2 senators each, having an outsized say in who holds the highest office in the land seems like overkill to me. Even if you didn't want to go to a total national popular vote, I think reducing each state's electoral votes by 2 to be more proportional would be a good idea. Even under this formula, a vote in Wyoming is still worth 1.2 votes in California. Hillary would still have lost even in that case, but Gore would have won in 2000. Some say that rural people need this extremely high amount of say in picking the president because otherwise everyone will ignore rural issues like farming. To that I say, rural areas already have a lot of representation in the Senate, with every tiny population state having 2 senators just like the big states. Also, very few of the controversial federal issues have anything to do with farming or any other issue that is more rural in nature. Most federal issues affect us all, like taxation, healthcare, foreign policy, various social issues, and so on. Interestingly, the people who live in those rural states tend to be more conservative and generally don't like the concept of affirmative action, where the playing field is attempted to be just slightly leveled in a very limited number of scenarios due to hundreds of years of slavery and racism. If you suggest that maybe their votes shouldn't be worth 3 times the vote of someone living in a city, though, they'll surely give you a questionable excuse about why they deserve it. So yeah, we still have the Electoral College as affirmative action for rural people. Another objection I hear for going to a popular vote is that it would increase the chance of voter fraud. To that I say the election would still be administered by the same people within each state, and as we saw in 2000, having the Electoral College doesn't at all ensure that a critical state isn't going to have huge election-changing consequences. Then there are people that inexplicably complain that California, New York, Texas, and Florida will have too big an influence on the election. To that I say, well, I would hope so, since they're about a third of the country, but no, they want their votes to count more still. A lot of Trump supporters will say correctly that it doesn't matter if he won the popular vote, and in terms of whether he's president or not, they're right. However, even down more than 2 million total votes, Trump claims that it was fraud that lost him the popular vote, which makes him look like a fool, but it doesn't seem to have stopped a lot of people from voting for him, so why stop acting foolish now, I suppose? So how do we fix this exactly? Well, we don't. It would take a constitutional amendment, and Republicans know the system favors them, so of course they won't do it. They might like a proposal that would give electoral votes by congressional district as well, but that would just give them a structural advantage again because those districts are drawn by states to favor their party, and they currently have a solid majority of governorships, although that could change in 2018. Republicans have won the popular vote for president only once since 1988, so they know they need to hold on to this large and growing structural advantage. There are states that have come up with a pact to have their electors vote for the popular vote winner, no matter how their own states vote. But only some reliably Democratic states have agreed to this, and it's worthless unless some Republican states sign on to it, which is of course unlikely. If it worked this way, I suspect this would cause voter turnout to increase. It doesn't seem that there are any solutions around the corner for this, but resentment and anger are certainly increasing, with only one guaranteed result at the moment. The cultural divide in this country will continue to get wider.